say the pledge and lead the prayer.
You know what? Let me check.
I know, I looked at my calendar, I've got to check
And it's fine if you.
when the WAMPO
Gotcha.
meeting is this month. So, you know what I always say, I'll tell you tomorrow.
Tomorrow never gets here.
Okay.
That's why Malloy asked me to call you. No one answered her phone.
If my phone's there and it rings, I'll answer it. And it's on ring sometimes. What happened today? I don't know why, it just doesn't ring all the time.
That's his excuse. He just ignores.
Actually, it is 6 o'clock. Time flies when you're having fun. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, thank you for the city of Goddard. Father, for the opportunity to serve. Thank you for the staff and their hard work. They do it with a grateful heart, and they do work so hard. I just pray your blessing upon this time, give us wisdom in making choices and decisions that will benefit our city and our staff. And this is in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Before we start, I just want to thank those of you that came tonight wearing green and honoring the summer colors of our budget. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump back where we ended, and I think we're at the General Funds Department highlights.
Yeah, so maybe you didn't miss a whole lot. I mean, you missed a lot yesterday, but we still got a lot to cover, so don't feel like you're too far behind. Oh, you got to watch it.
I was watching it online. I said it wasn't on the phone, so I can watch the slides.
Good. So just to kind of recap yesterday, we dove into this, went through, we started out just kind of what's in your binders, and I will continuously give you information for your binders, but we talked about our revenue, what we expect for property taxes, we talked about R&R, we talked about some of the other revenues that we'll be receiving in, and then we jumped into personnel and staffing situation and kind of what we've got planned for that, and that's kind of where we left it yesterday. So today we're going to jump right in and kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the general fund and the departments in here. And I apologize if some of this sounds repetitive to you, but I kinda like to just act like refresh here, especially if we've got new people on the council, just to kind of, talk about some of the different things, just to remind you. So, this slide right here, is our general fund revenue and expenditure summary by department, and I just kinda wanna talk about our departments, because sometimes it can be confusing when, let's say we've got a library department and we also have a library fund. So I kinda wanna go down through this. So we have all of these different departments within our general fund. We have administration, which is obviously just kind of the running of the city. We have a governing body department, which is all expenses related to our governing body and city council. We have a city hall department, which is mainly just kind of taking care of city hall maintenance. There's no salaries there. It's more contractuals and just maintenance of city hall, some supplies, commodities, and that sort of thing. We have our court department, police and animal control, our swimming pool, parks and recreation. That's one that's kind of different just because we have a parks and recreation, and we also have a special parks fund. So this one, this department within the general fund is to just take care of mowing and maintenance and landscaping and kind of just of our smaller parks. Community center, that is to take care of the community center, the maintenance, repairs, anything inside of that. And then we have our senior meals program, which is fairly new. It's kind of getting off the ground. We've had some expenses in 2024. We have a library department. This is outside of the library fund. So this is the city's building is the library, so we take care of it as we take care of our community center. So those costs for maintenance, repairs, and capital improvements to that facility is handled in that. Community donations, we'll go through that one. That's our donations to different organizations. That department has changed, as you recall, from back in 2024. This is where we held, we supplied the chamber with a lot of dollars, and they handled a lot of our events, and then we hired Danny on. So now that has gone down, and a piece of that money ends up going over to Danny's fund, which we will talk about at another time. Which it's not Dan, I should give it a proper name. It isn't Danny's fund, it's tourism and promotion fund. Yeah, Danny's fund.
It's my money.
Senior center, that one's kind of getting off the ground, and we're gonna have some discussions about what we're doing there. Senior transportation is gonna be a new department that we create. There's gonna be some expenses coming in 2025. In 2026, some of the expenses are gonna kind of be handled in the senior center, but they're gonna shift over next year and be completely handled in the senior transportation department. Economic development, planning and zoning, code enforcement, and then we have transfers. So one of the things I wanna mention to you as you look at this, these totals are kind of hard to see, so you'll have to look at your binder, but this kind of shows our total revenues and expenses based on our years 2024, 2025, 2026, and 27. You can kind of see in 2025 our revenues were up about 13%. Our expenses were up about 20% from the prior year. 2026, I've got it estimated that our total revenues 10.5%. Projected expenses about 22%, but in 2027, it looks like our revenues are going to be in about 15.82%, but our expenses are only going to come in about 5% increase. So to me, that's a really good, we're showing that, we're kind of keeping up with, we're not overspending, or, some of our spending there is kind of leveled off. Another thing that you're going to see that's going to be kind of different is transfers to other funds is going to change substantially. That is what I talked about when we were putting capital projects in the administration under capital outlay, or capital discretionary outlay. Those costs are now being moved down to transfer. So that's why that number looks so different this year. And we'll talk about that as we get to that.
Brooke, is there variance in any of these other ones where you did some reclassing that might account for why there's a large difference?
Yes, in the next slide.
Sorry.
We'll talk about that. No, you're good. I did do that. So as I came on board, yes, we've done some reclassing of some costs. last year was a big year where we did a big allocation rearrangement of salaries and benefits to different departments, making sure that, different line items are actually being budgeted in the correct places, and so that was a big change that we did last year. Some of the changes that you're going to see this year are our insurance, contracted IT, and citywide software. So one of the mechanisms, I did reach out and just try to figure out the best practices again with the FOA, and so if a department has full-time employees, then they should be getting a piece of some of these citywide costs that we incur. So insurance, there's gonna be some departments that get a little more of the piece of the puzzle, for insurance, for liability, cyber insurance, workman's comp. There was I've got a really nice spreadsheet that breaks out based on risk levels in different departments and the number of employees that kind of factors out a, this big long allocation of these costs based on departments and that. Contracted IT as well. If anybody has an email address, basically they're a cybersecurity risk, so we should be allocating those costs appropriately. Citywide software, that's another one that's really hard to allocate. So, we've got costs that, let's say for G-Works and for Tyler coming online, that affect all city departments. So again, these costs have been kind of reallocated, maybe out of water and sewer a little less, more into the general fund and vice versa, based on who's using it and the number of users. So, this here is a historical and projected expenditure summary, and this is for the general fund, and it's broken out into personnel, contractuals, commodities, capital outlay, and transfers. I didn't provide you guys this year the spreadsheet after spreadsheet after spreadsheet of all of our line items. It just gets to be way too much to go through. So we have to present it this way on our budget, state budget form. So I just went ahead and broke those, combined those costs into these categories for now. And as for reference, personnel is obviously all personnel costs. I mean, that's one's pretty simple to understand. Health insurance, capers, KP&F, all of those things. Contractuals are items such as our agreements, auditing, anything that's got a contract, legal services, software, those sorts of items. And our commodities are all the things that we use up. So office supplies, toilet paper, whatever is exciting that we use up here at the city. So capital outlay are items that are typically, obviously, larger purchases that are for, capital items, equipment, furniture. And again, they're trying to move a lot of the capital outlay out of that into the transfer. So that's where you're seeing, in 2027, it dropped down to 58,000. And that 58,000 is really just a kind of a combination of some smaller items. There's some police, equipment in that line item, plus some furniture, and then some small tablets and things like that. So that's why you see such a change in those items. When we get into transfers, I think you're gonna hopefully like how it's presented, because you're gonna see how we're going to pay for all of the things that we ask for through that. So, any questions? All right, so now if we just start tackling all of the different departments within the general fund. Our first one is Department 110 Administration. And this represents all of the administrative sort of costs that we have in this. And you can see that our change in personnel went up about 18.41%, but it kind of takes into consideration some 2026 staffing and 2027 staffing, and some reallocation of different items like that. So as you recall, we've added an HR director, an assistant to the city manager is budgeted for. So those two positions actually get paid out of this piece of the department. Contractuals, it went down just a little bit. There was a reduction in the interim HR contract labor. So last year we had quite a bit of cost with McGrath and those items. So that we're not going to have that this year or going forward. A reallocation of the IT software cost and insurance costs as well. And legal services are actually going down just a tad bit. I mean, we had kind of a big year in '25. I saw it kind of going up, but it's starting to kind of level back down a little bit. I'm not saying that, I've done a average and kind of making sure that we're kind of where we are, but it did go, it's projected to go down just a tad bit. Capital changes in 2026, that's $737,000. Those were items that we budgeted for and planned for. The one-time ERP implementation costs, that has a portion of that. Some capital transfers to designated, it also, sorry, it has our comp plan in there and some other consulting costs in that as well. And it's, I've already said about 10 times now, the 2027 capital transfers are not gonna be in that line item anymore. They're gonna be outside of that. So that covers administration. Any questions? Governing body is our next department, number 120, and one of the changes that have not been made on your slides, because you just haven't made the changes yet, was yesterday there was comment on changing the personnel, the cost of the wages, payments to the council. So this is something that may change as we go forward. I have it noted as, you know, possibly a $5,000 to $6,000. This is, I'm just throwing a number out there. Increase into those line items to cover some different costs. So we could put some dollars there, and what we settle on may not be all that, but I want to at least put a buffer in there to cover that. Contractuals, it's going to jump up a bit in 2027. 2026 looks really low compared to 2025, but we had a whole bunch of costs for 2026 happen early in 2025. The governing body orientation happened in December, and you know, right before everybody took their office. So that's kind of why they're down. But in 2027, you know, this takes into consideration a council retreat and also some contracted work through a Sam Tolles training that we've got planned for that. Let's see. Also, this department got the allocation of the IT services to get a component of, you know, the usage of email and such, like I mentioned earlier, a new allocation of cybersecurity as well, insurance costs. I increased the legal services budget in this department because even though in Department 110 it went down, this one was kind of going up a little bit. So I made sure we have enough dollars there to cover that. And then we also have continued support for the events that you guys participate in for the Goddard Education Foundation and the Tanganyika Twilight event. Capital changes will probably be budgeted for some capital or some computer replacements as well. City Hall, 150 is really kind of boring. Oh, back up. Okay, sorry.
I hate even to ask this question, but at what point, I mean, we've had conversations in the past, but at what point do we get to the point where we hire and have our own city attorney full-time? I mean, Ryan does a great job.
Yeah. You know, there are days where we certainly have some introspection and wonder if sooner rather than later is the answer to that. I think I see the bill, it can be anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 a month. I think to hire an in-house city attorney, they would be your highest paid employee, which is fine. It'd be difficult to find one. They're few and far between to find someone who just wants to work for a city and not have their own private practice. That's a really difficult find. So I know of one or two in the metro area that don't work for the county or city of Wichita. So I'd say maybe 3 years or 4 years before I feel like we're really gonna be forced into that.
Well, you know,
Morris Lane does a great job,
they do.
and I think if we were to use another private practice, they wouldn't be able to do any better. But
yeah, no,
we
I'm not saying that it's an issue in their quality of work. It's just a matter of the expense that we have and the potential of saving money. Plus, you got that person's undivided attention.
having someone down the hall would be huge.
But I'm not sure I'm gonna share my office in the shed with the card table. It's not very 2 chairs.
Yeah.
Ooh, double stacker.
Mayor, you know, the trigger might be when we get the police moved and we remodel City Hall. It might be a matter of practicality of having the space for it. But the question comes up every once in a while, and, you know, we meet with them bi-weekly, and our agenda is usually 2 pages long of things, and it can take a while for them to get through some of the work product because we're not their only client, and some of the work is complex.
And if you just have one person, then you go the things, that list, it's still gonna take that
Oh,
person.
yeah. It would be a full-time job, but I think the other thing to consider is even if we had our own full-time city attorney, we would still have some legal
Oh, sure.
expense because they're not gonna be specialized in everything we deal with. Certainly not bond-related items, but there could be, that's the beauty of Morris Lang, is their firm is so large that they have a specialist tax, environment, real estate, the whole gamut. It'd be
No,
hard
it's
to
just
find
something
someone.
that
who
we just
has
need
that.
to remember it's out there on the horizon. that
No
it's
doubt.
a Possibility to maybe save a little money and something. Like I said.
It's a great question.
I wanna say on average, probably annually, we spend probably anywhere from $199,000 to $226 a year in legal fees. I mean, that's kind of what they're ranging, so.
I'd say a minimum of 200 to hire an attorney to replicate similar quality work. So I don't know that we're to the break-even point yet, but we'll keep our eye on it.
One other question I had unrelated to that, but, on the capital outlay, like on administrative, you said move to, designated projects, but then on governing body, you have some plan.
Yeah.
Can you explain what constitutes?
Sure, if it's small, in your department here, the 120, this represents probably some, tablets, some small computer replacements that are outside the Imagine IT's replacement schedule. Just small, maybe some furniture, those are the kind of items that get put here, that's not really big ticket items. On that first slide that I showed, there was about $53,000 allocated to capital outlay amongst all of these departments, and so small amounts, it's okay to spend, $2,000, $3,000 here and there in a department.
But administrative, you don't plan to have any?
Mm-mm,
Okay.
no.
Alright, curious.
Yeah, because, if you think about it, all of the administration computers, for instance, capital outlay, is handled through our replacement plan, it's handled in a different place.
Okay.
I can't see us needing any more office furniture, per se, or, small ticket items, or computers or printers, just,
We talked about some office adjustments may need to be made and may be allocated somewhere else. We may have to add an office, which would require some drywall work and a small amount of electrical and a desk.
yeah.
But nothing, we already had quotes to carve out an office in that corner, and it was like $6,000, so small amount of money.
We've put dollars for that, Craig, and you haven't seen it yet, in the capital improvement fund, which will be later on, so it's kind of just a, it's not really a science, it's just kind of like, well, I see us having some costs there, I better put some dollars there just to be on the safe side. I do know that here we put in for maybe some tablet replacements, or, planning commission too, some tablet replacements, just small items. I wanna say Chief's capital outlay is the largest. I think it's gonna come in at about 36,000, but that's more many little items that they need to buy for, I call capital outlay,
Got it.
so,
Alright.
yeah,
Thanks.
good question. City Hall, Department 150 is really pretty uneventful. This again is just taking care of City Hall. We always put money in there for capital, for carpet cleaning and facility repairs. We have had some, bathroom repairs and, things like that around here that we do. Utilities is also handled through here, and I put in all of the utility line items, a 5% increase for inflation, just to keep that going. So not only utilities, I would do utilities, pest control, cleaning, and all those types of things. I kind of give it, a 5% increase. If we use it great. I don't know that all of them will be 5% at the end, but this is kind of a good placeholder to do that. Everything else looks pretty good. There's no, capital projects really planned in this area. Like I said, the change to City Hall is gonna come out of a different capital improvement fund later on. Municipal court, this one's changed just a little bit. In 2026, you can see that our salary for our personnel was up quite a bit, but that was because we had some retirement payouts, and we also had that position double staffed for, you know, a little bit of the year to do the onboarding. So, it will go down just a bit in 2027, actually down 37%. So there's some savings there, but that was needed to do that in order to get our staffing up to speed on their duties. Let's see, legal services remain, okay, yeah, so the legal services is their biggest expense. Obviously handling all the courts and the trials and, you know, Christina at Morris Lang's work, all of that is handled through here. I did do a reduction in the allocation of contracted ICT and software just to get it more accurate based on employee count and just a more of a mathematical way of allocating things there. But again, nothing really other than that, just they're just doing their thing, and municipal court really not a whole lot. There's no software additions or anything there. I do want to mention the other day, I did say that court revenue is going up a little bit. I mean, it was on a downhill slide, but like I said, I don't know if just the processes that Beth's doing, she seems to be really good and following through and looking up some old stuff and trying to track down some old things that are outstanding that are really hard to get payment on. So I know she's been asking me those things. So that, I don't want to say we're going to get rich off of that, but it is going up just a little bit to help out. So. All right, police department and animal control. You can see that this department has gone up about 21%, and this is due to a lot of things. You know, we plan to hire 2 more policemen next year, and when you hire 2 policemen, that's expensive. Their KPNF is a lot more than just a regular Capers employee. There's a lot of outfitting, there's a lot of guns and equipment and training and vehicles, and it just, you know, it just adds to the mix. So I mean that increase is really pretty standard. Contractual, again, there was a shift to this department for the software and insurance, just because that's just the way it works. They've got the most risk, they have the most number of employees in their department, so there was kind of a reallocation of those costs. We have a flock safety camera system contract that we have to pay for out of this too. So, you know, we have those contractuals, expanded cybersecurity, which I've already mentioned, those items. Increase in commodities, increased ammunition, firearm expenditures, training, equipment, officer gearing. And our capital changes, which you can see here, is about $36,000. Ongoing replacement of police equipment, technology, radio and audio equipment upgrades, computer and office equipment replacements. There are some of the police department's computer replacements that are outside of the Imagine IT's contracted replacements. They get some tough looks and things that are just a little different. So we kind of handle those all through here instead of separating them out and putting them in a different place. Continued vehicle and camera equipment funding. So they're not, the police cars are not in this here, or you would see it in the capital outlay line item. You will see those in our transfers to the equipment fund later on when we talk about those transfers out. So, but we are going to be budgeting for 2 police cars as we talk about projects and equipment needs in a minute. Yeah, so any questions on PD1? Yep.
I know we approved the new, and I don't know which one of you will answer this, but I know we approved the new tasers and like the way that we broke that payment up. How does that look, or how does that change as you're adding officers and you need more of those?
It's going to be minimal
Okay.
compared to what you're gonna see per officer.
Okay,
There's a lot more than just the actual taser. There's the
There's
cost
all
of
the training,
software.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, and
okay.
replacement.
So it's not something we'll
program.
really see,
I mean,
very minuscule.
minorly,
Okay.
yes. I mean, I think some of the things you see with increased expenses in payroll is you have people like myself, lieutenant, and some long tenured people, as they are here longer, their raises, their slight percentage of raises are a little bit more, and
Right,
and the pay rate goes up than bringing somebody on at a lower rate.
okay. That was it.
Swimming pool, looks like we're down about 6.67% over our projections. So there's been some kind of rearrangement in the personnel and just kind of the management of the personnel, this year with Sarah and Jason kind of keeping an eye on that. Last year, there was a lot of overtime, but we kind of decided to quit that. So we've been working on that and making sure that, you know, we have the proper number of guards and the proper number of people on board and that type of thing. So that's kind of leveling out just a little bit. We do pay, just to let you know, we do pay for swimming suits for our guards and obviously all the trainings and certifications that they need. So, you know, that's a good portion of a cost that we have there. We do plan to purchase an ice machine if we haven't already.
And we did, we
Okay.
found one, that would suit their needs for like $250, so.
$250, well, I have 3,000 there, so that's a good savings.
Yeah,
It's a
we-
really good cost.
Yeah, we found a countertop one at Lowe's that would work well for them.
Could you link that to us, because that's a really good deal.
And with the money,
Been looking for one at home.
keep saving.
Yeah, so, commodities,
It's for the
commodities, chemical budget spikes to normalize in 2027. We're kind of watching that. Then I think we talked to Alan, isn't he the one that kind of keeps an eye on that? I think we were using up some old stuff, but we may need to purchase some more of that.
In 2019, it was like a third of that cost. For like 2 years, quarry just went. And it's getting worse because a lot of that stuff's made overseas and there are problems, but hopefully it'll level out a bit.
Our new ice machine would be a capital outlay, change here, replacement for pool chairs. That's a need that we're looking at paying for in this department, not outside within basically the capital improvements we're going to do out here. Jason seems to think that this department can build these, so we're going to see if that's what we wanna do, but that's kind of what we budgeted for, very conservatively, for them to build lifeguard chairs with an umbrella and all that stuff.
Well, we have like $2,700 left from the ice machine.
You do?
We need to.
Exactly.
Lions Club was-
Materials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a general,
I do wood.
Okay.
a general comment about the pool. I've spent the last couple of weeks, not every day, but watching my grandkids go through swimming lessons, and the lifeguards and the young students that we have that are working there at the pool, very personable, they're very kind, they really, do a nice job with that, and, I just think that whoever's running the pool this year, I think just we need to make some recognition and note of just how well they treat our kids and protecting them, and also like in the lessons. It's kind of fun to watch, so.
Emma's done a really well job, with themselves.
Okay.
She's the daughter of our previous manager.
But she's really stepped in, really stepped up, and she's done a phenomenal job. She was organized from the get-go.
I see your comments online about how well they're doing. There's a lot of positive feedback. She's been on top of things. She's in constant contact with us, asking questions.
It's packed over there all the time too, so.
Yeah, I was
Except for
curious.
the last couple days.
Yeah.
On that topic though, like, do we keep track, like year over year, how much usually, I don't know, volume of people that use the pool outside? I know swim lessons like book out in like
Mm-hmm.
an hour sometimes or something, but just regular attendance? Do we kinda keep track,
I
season
know
over season, to
they
see?
used to, I don't know if that's something that they're still doing, like just as a kid, I know that they used it, like when I
That's
first
what I
went,
thought, yeah,
they
they
always
used to keep
tallied
track.
every
Yeah.
day, like they did
Well,
a
they had
tally.
to make sure they weren't exceeding their.
Yeah, I don't
Right.
know if that's something that they still do, I can check in. and see
Or,
that's
I mean, if
still
revenue
doing.
alone tells us that, I was looking at revenue, it's pretty much flat on all of it,
It's
but.
always
Yeah.
about the same, yeah.
Just didn't know, I mean, it sounds like it's busy most of the time, but.
I'm guessing for the more people we bring in, like, because of our chemical costs and other things, like, we're just kind of treading that line.
Yeah, pools aren't fine. Pools,
No.
golf courses and libraries don't sustain themselves with revenue, but they're amazing.
Yeah.
No, but I was just
They're
trying to,
needed.
yeah, see if it was still getting as much use as it always gets.
Anecdotally, yes, but let us check the.
Okay.
You're gonna see some, improvements to the pool in our transfers
And
to
that's
the
probably
capital
why I
coming
asked,
up,
yeah.
so, we decided, after looking at the community survey, there was a lot of interest in that, doing some enhancements to the pool, and so we did some juggling to try to change some things around, and if you guys approve, we'll be making some improvements next year to the pool, so. Department 320, Parks and Recreation, like I said, this is just maintenance of the parks, and, I do want to mention that I'm kind of starting to determine how I'm gonna handle North Park when it comes online, and this department, right, what? Legacy Bank Park, excuse me.
We just lost $20.
I'll put it in the jar.
Say it 3 times.
You gotta put it 20 in the jar every time I say that, I'm sorry. Not gonna say it half the time.
Which one is that coming out
Okay, so,
of? You guys, machine recovery.
alright, so, this Parks and Recreation, department, like I said, is gonna basically handle Linear Park and Means Park and some of our smaller parks, but this doesn't account for anything that I've kinda got my eye on in next year for Legacy Bank Park. Okay. You'll see that happening in Fund 60, Special Parks and Recreation Fund. I put some, when we do that fund, you'll see that I put some money over there to just, do the mowing and, try to figure out some costs that we're gonna have to start paying for over there. But here, our largest cost is mowing. It remains the department's largest operational expense, and then our landscaping expenditures, and beautification. Commodities remain consistent pretty much, and really no big projects are budgeted right here. We will have one project in Linear Park in the transfers, but we'll talk about that one in a second, okay?
I have one more question, sorry, and I apologize for not knowing the answer to this, but we've kind of gone back and forth with the parks and just the things that we're doing, and I know with doing Legacy Bank Park, like, we've kind of paused some other things. As of right now, is our intention still just kind of hold what we're doing with Means Park?
No.
Oh,
I
okay,
haven't
we keep getting ahead of you, sorry.
And I haven't talked to Craig yet about that piece, but I have worked it into the capital, and, did I?
You told me yesterday.
Did I? Oh, yeah, you have seen that, okay.
Okay.
I've worked it
Sorry,
in.
getting ahead of you.
I've worked that into the capital improvement fund when we go and talk about the projects that are gonna be paid out of it. I think we've got enough, we have enough money there to go ahead and cross that off the CIP, because like I told you, that's, when we were kind of juggling the swimming pool stuff, and then I'm looking at the CIP, and then I look at, the survey, kind of trying to make it all work, and so, at first, before I started fine tuning the capital improvement fund, I said, well, people are wanting us to do the pool stuff, so maybe since we're doing so much in North Legacy Bank Park, that we can not do the Means Park thing, maybe push it out. And so I kind of kept it here thinking, well, let's see what happens, and I think we're gonna be able to do it all.
That's amazing, okay.
So, if y'all approve, so. Okay. Community Center, just continued maintenance and repair. Really nothing here. In our capital outlay, I've included some extra dollars in there to replace some tables and chairs. I'm sure they're getting used quite a bit over there, so if something's needing replaced, we've got some dollars there to replace tables and chairs. Nothing really other than that, just maintenance on the building. And there are some things that we'll talk about when we get to the transfers and the projects as well. Senior meals, let's talk about that. So, this is kind of this is obviously a brand new, department really for us this year. Kind of got kicked off last year, and now we are maintaining it, and now we're trying to project how to handle it into the future. And so right now, we have, in 2026, we added a part-time program coordinator. I think that position is currently open at the moment. So we did have some personnel, payroll related items. Since it's a part-time employee, we don't have to worry, this department doesn't have to worry about capers or health insurance, but if we get over, I think 20 hours a week or something like that, we start kicking in, or 1,000 hours a year, we start kicking up some real significant costs related to health insurance and benefits that we have to offer. So, a lot of, some of the expenses that we've put in here are for licenses, maybe some supplies, some pass-through donations. Oh, any dollars that we bring in for the congregate meals or, Meals on Wheels donations have to be given back to CPAAA. So we have to give those dollars back to them, but some of our costs can be turned into them for reimbursement. So I think our licenses and some of the small costs can be offset. So our costs really aren't a whole lot, other than our personnel, and even that we get a component from the county to pay for a portion of that as well. So really, nothing capital planned. We did all the capital stuff back when we had to buy the refrigerator and an oven or something back right before I started here, so I don't think there's any need at the moment. Okay. Department 350, library. Again, this is just the maintenance of the library. This isn't the meal levy that they get. And we're gonna talk about when we get to the library fund. Last year, we revised the resolution that says how much we would give the library in excess of the dollars that they get for the mill levy. And there is some dollars allocated here. If that $35,000 that we typically gave them in the past, if our mill and our evaluation didn't exceed that, we give them the difference to make them whole. So I do have it estimated that it's probably gonna be about $8,000 to $10,000 that they're probably gonna need next year. I budgeted 15, just to be on the safe side. But we true that up at year end, and we'll talk about that as I can show you the numbers on that.
8 to 10 versus 35.
Yes.
So there's about $25,000 there because of that resolution.
Yeah. And I did meet with them, and talk to them about that, but we'll talk about that when we get to the library fund. Contractuals, we are seeing some things that need fixed over there right now. We had the HVAC unit go out, so we have about $8,000 worth of HVAC repairs that are happening this year, over there. So we budget for carpet cleaning. I put some dollars in there for emergencies, but basically just running the library and keeping it up to date, so. Community donations. So, this is the fund that I mentioned that in the past we would give dollars to the chamber, but now we don't do that anymore, but we do offer, donations to these entities currently. I kinda wanna go down through and just tell you what I did. If you don't like it, you can say no, we're not doing that, Brooke. The Lions Club, we typically give them $13,500. I went ahead and bumped it up to $4,000 next year. Disc golf, we usually give them $5,000. Ballet in the Park is usually $1,000. They don't need their donation this year, but I went ahead and kept it $1,000 for next year. Summer Ball Showdown, we give them $5,000. The chamber, or these are chamber dues, I just put them here, they're $10,000 a year. Goddard's Women's Club, we give them $1,500, I bumped them up to $2,000. And the tourism fund, we have to still supplement Fund 61, the tourism and promotion fund, until we get our transient guest tax up and running. So this year, we'll probably give that fund about $73,500. We have 75 budgeted. I'll kind of see where we land at the end of the year. but next year we're gonna give that fund 60,000. I'm trying to like pull back with the general funds, giving that fund, hoping that transient guest tax gets it where it needs to go. The only other addition, you guys mentioned the other day that you wanted to start a high school scholarship fund for
Real estate.
real estate, yeah, is that what it was?
We do for other things too, we just had a pot of money and we wanted to.
Yeah, this is where the dollars would come from, so if you guys are wanting to make those changes, I would like to know, and I can add these into the budget. Or if you don't like something that we're currently doing, we don't have to do those, so it's just what's currently happening.
Can you, I have a statement just really quick, the Lions Club, you said it's at 13,500 right now, but you bumped it up another 4,000 for next year?
No, to 14.
Okay, I was like, okay, yeah, I was,
Sorry,
Did you bump it down?
just $500
Yeah, yeah,
more.
okay.
I just rounded it up to a nice, clean, good, even number.
I want to address this very carefully, but I do feel like there's an obligation to have this conversation. We're giving the chamber for dues $10,000, and we're not getting chamber feedback in every area. Our businesses are not seeing that chamber kind of kickback, and so I kind of struggle with the thought of continuing a $10,000 investment somewhere that we're not seeing that investment back into our community. I think especially since they've left our community and have grown, so.
Councilwoman, I feel like the city of Goddard, not our community and our business community and our neighbors, the city itself, I think we're getting the value out of our $10,000 because we're at the table for a lot of regional conversations that impact us, whether it's about regional transportation, if it's a big business industry that we're having some kind of a seminar on, the professional development stuff they offer us, and we do get some advertisement and stuff like that out of it too. Not a great amount, but I think that from the business perspective for the city of Goddard businesses, I've heard from, I think, some of the same people from you, one or two, that may have sour grapes about it. I've also heard from several who have kind of gone with the transition, and maybe one or two that weren't involved in the past who now are, that are appreciating the way it's going. So I'm having a hard time distinguishing between kind of sour feelings about just the change in of itself versus I'm not getting anything out of it kind of a thing. So, but I do think the city of Goddard, I think we are getting a good return out of our investment.
From $10,000.
I think so.
Okay.
Well, and then I would add, compared to where we were 4 years ago,
We weren't getting.
there was a lot of money in that budget. And,
Six figures.
and,
123,500.
and part of that was
Yeah,
due
yeah.
to, the loss of funds from a big concert that ticket sales didn't cover.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm saying, but even when you roll that off, it was still in the $80,000 to $90,000 range. And I think the collaboration between, it actually allows collaboration between the city of Goddard and the city of Mays. And actually, I think we've received some positive benefits from people that have attended those meetings, finding out about Goddard that are West Wichita. So it's really a regional item. I think there's benefit in being a part of that. A community of our size, and I know this from years, one year I ran the chamber in Paola, Kansas, and you cannot fully fund a full-time director in a community of 5,000 people. And that was in a county seat where we had doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, professionals, hospital, trying to support it. So it's always the complaints and the things I've heard years ago about the chamber are the same things you hear now.
Yeah.
And so there's always that mix. But I think at this point where we are with the growth from West Wichita coming right towards us, being involved in that group allows us to share what's going on within our community, and I think it'll help eventually attract some businesses to land. Hopefully, and that whole transition, how they operate too, I think giving them a couple of years to trying to work on it. But I think they've held up their end of the bargain in terms of working to try to keep being engaged here in Goddard.
Well, we cut their funding last year too, so we went from 123 to like 17 or 18,000, when I told them last year we were only doing 10,
Okay.
maybe last
So
year.
this is a decrease from what we were doing in the past.
A big decrease.
Okay.
And I think you get, sorry, Councilman, one last quick comment about this. I also think you get what you put into it. I mean, if you're a business member and you're actively participating, going to all the things that they're offering, you're gonna get something out of it. But some business owners or people in general just don't have the time to do it because of the things they have going on. So they may not get the value out of it. It may not be for them. But we try to share out all the activities and stuff. And I know we go to, especially the stuff they do together, because they still do the coffees and the luncheons and the ribbon cuttings and stuff. They do that for us, for our new businesses, which is nice. And I know that Amy's working pretty closely with the director of there too. So I think for 10 grand, we're getting a good return. And we cut it pretty good, so I think to cut it even more, but we will keep an eye on it.
Yeah, I just wanna be careful, you know, we heard from the Lions Club that the support they're putting back in the community, like that money is very quickly dwindling as well, so I just wanna make sure that when we're talking about allocating these funds, that we're just having those conversations.
And I actually 100% agree with what you just said about you get out what you put in. Because like at the Lions Club, like we had discussed it and we were just like, well, we're not getting much for this. But then I called Krista and I met with her. She like made a special deal to just come and have coffee. She goes, I'll meet with you more. She met with me at 7:30 in the morning.
Okay.
So that she could walk me through how to use the page, how to put events on her calendar. You know, you have to like sit down with her if you're a business partner that wants to work with it, work with the chamber and like figure out how to do all the things. And she got me a login and she walked me through how to add events, and she would create them. She's like, send me a poster or whatever and she'll get it on her page. So you do kind of get out what you put in to it, but you have to also be willing to just pick up the phone and have a conversation and tell her what you want. And she was very accommodating and is totally willing to put flyers out during the luncheons and all the things like, but you gotta just pick up the phone and tell her what you want, and I think she's willing to do that. So it's just a new way of doing it, but yeah, so if you're talking to those business people, and I think you've had good conversations with her, and so I think she's willing to listen and willing to hear what people want, but people have to be willing to engage. They can't just say, oh, they're not doing what I want them to do. Well, you're gonna have conversations and tell them what you want. So.
But also as a business owner, you know, 100% of that business is your responsibility. So,
Absolutely.
you know, when you are working with the chamber, it's exactly like Naomi said. You are obligated. It is your responsibility to pick up the phone and call that person and ask for the things that you've paid for, you know. And I appreciate that Craig has said that the city is actually, you know, and I would hate for us to cut off any kind of communication because the chamber now partners with the west side of, you know, with Maze, and, you know, we're growing and we need these allies, you know. So I do think that it's a huge asset still to continue. I mean, I think if you think you're getting a good return on investment for $10,000 with the chamber, then we stay with it.
Hosting during our election cycle, I just thought of this. Sorry to belabor the subjects. I know this is
No,
not
I
what
wanna
you're
hear these
intending.
things, cause obviously like I see one side of it, and so.
Well,
Okay.
you just have to take into consideration each business owner. Like there are in my establishment at the salon, there are 7 business owners within that entity.
Right.
It is the responsibility of each of those owners to run their business. And if part of that is the chamber and they don't feel like they're getting that, you know, getting what they need from it, then it's the responsibility of the owner to contact. Obviously, when we make contact, because I did with her, Kristen was very open, she was very honest. We kind of went through things from before, and, you know, she was able to show me things that I never got from the previous
Yeah, and this is
leadership,
not,
so
I mean,
it's-
this is not a Krista, this is just,
Right.
in it, as a whole, I think I've stood on the basis that perception is reality. And so when you're not seeing this in your community, and I mean, even being like before council, when you talk about, well, the city, you know, we could be out doing more for businesses, but the response that we are met with is, that's kind of what the chamber does, like, that's the chamber's responsibility, the city doesn't do that. But we're not really like seeing the chamber out in our community, I just think that that's really important.
Yeah,
So,
I
I think that's kind of where I was
They
coming
have to
from.
know.
They have to be invited also.
Yeah, well,
You can put like an invite, like once you get access to their calendar, you can like literally put your event on the calendar and let them know if you want them to come to your event. And they will bring the media, you just have to let them know what you want. So it's kind of one of those things like you have to invite them.
mhm.
Cause they're not just gonna roam around and wait for events, like, right, but if
Right.
you have something like you can get and you're actively using the page, right, let it know what the heck, they'll definitely come. Yeah, they for sure will.
Yeah, we were a chamber member for, I mean, I'm not anymore, but we were a chamber member for 2 years, and I didn't even know there was a page.
It's a shared responsibility, I think,
Yeah.
of our senior staff and our governing body to be visiting with our business owners. I personally feel like we can just delegate that to them and say, hey,
Right.
you're our person that goes and takes care of our businesses. I think myself and you, five, and especially our senior staff, we have an obligation to, go in, represent ourselves to our business owners and let them know what they're going to. But I really appreciate that they do our forums and stuff during the elections, because we legally can do that. So like every other year when we have an election, or every 2 years,
And we
they
have the
host
lunch.
those.
Mhm.
And they haven't charged us to do that. I think that alone is worth $10 grand, because they do 3 of them. So I appreciate that too, for sure. It's been interesting. I stepped off from our membership level. We have a trustee. We're an ex officio on their board, so we're very plugged in. Now Ryan, our deputy city manager, is in that. He's sitting on the board now, so this was just a recent transition, but we're pretty plugged in, and it's been good so far.
Okay.
So if we have ideas for things that they could be doing better, we can tell Ryan.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Let us know.
I just think we're really in a good place with them right now compared to where we were 3 or 4 years ago, so.
Especially financially. We've saved so much money.
Just all over the place. All right, keep it rolling.
I just wanna revisit, the scholarship fund.
Yeah, I wanna go back to that.
Yeah.
Do you have anything?
I mean, I'd love to add to that, I don't, like, I'm thinking the scholarship fund, if we put 1,000 in it, I think we could pay for a couple kids, like, they won't always have the kids though, there's like a very clear expectations for the kids, and they have to be recommended by, somebody at the school, a sponsor, and so, their grades have to be a certain way, but it'd be nice to have it. But if there's other things at Goddard School that we want to add to this, I don't know if there's other things. I know they have the fund that we attend, but.
Yeah, I guess I wanna be careful in just having $1,000 just available, because one thing we've found with Lions Club is it's hard to predict if you just have an amount, who's gonna come to you from the school and say, hey, I got this kid that wants this, do you guys got some money? And
You'll be getting a lot of calls.
yeah, exactly, so it might be better that we have an intention of what it's used for, and then we have the schools plugged in to say, hey, if you have kids that you're recognizing as like sophomores, working their way to juniors, it's a junior, right?
She was junior going to senior.
Yeah, so like as they're coming up, that you think would be a good fit for, one of these scholarships, that's when we use it, that.
Yeah.
So is it one boy and one girl that goes to the state?
That's the way we envision it.
If they
yeah.
go, like this year they only sent a girl.
And what was
They
the
didn't-
total?
It was 420.
It's like 425, and then they have to add just another 50, I don't know.
We'll budget 1,000 just in case they increase the
Right.
annual fee, and then we'll just fund, which if they send one or none, we'll just fund
Can
up
we,
to 2.
can we have a discussion with the schools? I mean, I like just the idea of a scholarship in general,
425.
because I would hate for somebody not to be recommended for that, or not to make that, and that scholarship to just sit there that year. I don't know, I mean, I agree just not letting it sit there, but like, can we have a contingency, like, can a senior apply for the grant, or the scholarship, or can they, you know what I mean, is there?
Let us work through that. We'll talk with the school, Dane, and we'll start out with just having the two, but we'll create a contingency. They may have some other program, you know, that way we are expending the funds.
I like the idea of getting back to our kids and encouraging them to kind of get into this and learn, and so I wanna make sure that it can't be used that way, that we're using it some way.
It's going
And they're
down
already-
junior to senior year, like that gap.
The junior to senior year, and they have specific criteria
Yeah.
Like
that
they're
they
working
have to
towards.
meet before, like,
Right.
the school already has that in place, so it could be just a partnership with that, what it looks like.
If the mayor doesn't mind, I wanna give time back to Brooke. Let us
Right.
circle up on this and we'll work with the
Yeah.
school on the rest of what you guys are sharing with us.
Conestoga wagon fund in honor of my wife.
I hope she's watching.
Girls thing, oh, she heard it last night.
She did.
Back in the prehistoric days of the covered wagon.
Well, thank you for considering it.
Yep.
That's gross.
We'll just go ahead, I mean, I'm gonna put a line item for $1,000, just to have it in the budget. Alright, so our next fund is, our department is 370, our senior center, and as you all know, this is growing and expanding and just blowing up and getting real exciting, so, you can see in 2025 to 2026, our personnel, you know, starting to really increase. We've had an addition just this week, I think, of a full-time senior center director, which when we hire a full-time person, you gotta remember that's gonna increase all of our personnel related expenditures like health insurance, capers, payroll taxes, and workers' compensation. So with that being said, 2026 is really a mixture of part-time plus half-year, full-time positions, so that's kind of why you're seeing the dollars there in the 2026, but in 2027, you know, the full position should be about $81,900. This department also is gonna start getting a component of the software technology, insurance, you know, they have risk now as well, so they are starting to get a piece of this based on the number of employees they have. Commodities, I do want to mention that Amanda did provide me a very detailed budget. I wanna say she did a better job than almost anybody in the whole city did with the budget, so she was very detailed, and we put in everything that they needed for their operations. I just added it to what I thought it was going to, sorry, Jason. Jason's like, well, what about my budget?
You said you were gonna pay that
Close
later.
second.
I think as a collective, you'll pay for that later.
But what is it, the CP AAA? I mean, their requirements on that back end for reporting to them.
It's stringent because it's federal dollars.
Yeah,
It's
so
very
that,
stringent.
she's already plugged into
I
the
mean, so
form that's
she did
beyond
a lot
belief.
of, planning, and so all of the things for the senior center, I just added it, I didn't make any judgment on what they needed or what they didn't need, so everything is included in the contractuals, the commodities, component, so with that, we also had to add in, legal fees are going up just a bit, especially in 2026, but I did bring them back down just a little bit, I think we've worked through all the stuff that, you know, Ryan's worked on the bylaws and helped with, you know, reviewing all that stuff. Capital outlay in 2026, so this is kind of that mixture between senior center fund and senior transportation. We're gonna shift next year to get it all into senior transportation. But that capital outlay there, that $12,214. So what we did for the senior center early in the year, you know, they were concerned with if they didn't spend all of the dollars that they were allocated last year, and you know, they brought money in, they wanted to make sure they had that $46,000 available to them. So what was left after we netted it out was that $12,214, and we sent those dollars out of the general fund to the foundation to put towards the van. So that's how that kind of flushed out, and so those dollars are sitting there, and when we get ready to make the grant match here very soon, we'll be pulling those dollars out of the foundation to make that happen, but that's why you see that there. We have planned, and you'll see it in our capital outlay transfers a little bit later, we have planned to do, if you'll approve, a strategic plan for the senior center. So we budgeted some dollars that you will see to kind of put a plan together, before we start hiring any more people, and, that's kind of where we wanna start, to kinda get a plan in place, and so we have some dollars to do an official, strategic plan of the senior center, next year, and you'll see that later, okay? Any questions?
It's amazing, 3 years ago, none of that was in part of the budget, it wasn't even operating.
First of all, you gotta love my van.
Your man is great.
I worked really hard on that, at least my AI friend did. Anyway, so this is gonna be kind of a test year, 2026 and 2027, in my opinion, with the senior van. We've tried to account for everything, and again, Amanda provided a lot of things that maybe I didn't know or to think about to put into these budgets, but, so, we're gonna try to maintain this, but, you know, if something happens, I guess we're gonna have to come back and we'll talk about, you know, where to pull money from, or maybe we budgeted high, I don't know, you know, it's kind of like the learning year with the tourism and promotion fund. We kind of gotta see what we get a couple of years under our belt to kind of actually see what's gonna happen. So, 2026, we have, increased, funding for a part-time driver position, approximately 20 hours a week. So, you know, we wanna make sure since this is such a new department, we don't know what it's gonna be like, we wanna make sure that, you know, we're keeping our costs low and we don't know what our demand is yet. So, we're gonna, if we increase it past that 20 hours a week, you're looking at probably having to, you know, start offering health insurance or start offering capers. And so that's gonna totally, you could probably add another $50,000 to that number if you make the position full-time or more, you know, at least.
Not to undercut anyone, but could we, if we hit that point to save some funds, could we talk about any 2 part-time drivers versus?
We could we'd have to do a fiscal impact analysis, and Rick is gonna be getting into this again, so I'm getting out a little out over here, but the senior center, which has been an incredible blessing, we've grown so fast. In 2023, we were spending less than $6,000, now we're over 200.
Right.
That's a lot of change in a short amount of time, so we're budgeting to do a strategic plan next year.
And we'll just let them decide that, and hopefully we can coast through this next, like we had discussed, okay.
That should help guide us a little better. We've kind of been feeling our way around in the dark for the
Yeah.
last couple of years. It's been going great, but it's gonna get a little bit more, I think, a little bit more strategic, obviously, when we have a consultant come in to help us kind of
And I think
plan out the next 5-10 years.
we'll know more in a year too. I mean, when we see, you know, the usage of the van, I mean, I would hate to go ahead and budget for positions and waste budget authority. We don't
Yeah.
need it, you know?
I just meant when you're talking about pulling, you know, another 50 potentially, like if we had to have it, how can we kind of mitigate that cost?
I think we would just address that when the time came.
Well, and there is some of the funding from health insurance. There's some funding that's been saved. There's some money kind of set aside there that we could pull some money out for some of the costs of the personnel. It's kind of like there's one little pocket of hidden savings that we're not. You know, and we'll find, when's your meeting with
Monday.
some Monday? I mean, I think there's flexibility in that side of the budget for those things.
We can always figure it out.
If we continue to grow, the community grows, that there's the opportunity that you're not taking from one person
Right.
and giving it to someone else. So we're really fortunate to be, you know, in a situation where we're growing. And I guess, you know, I've said it more than once, that my little story about the cycle of a business or an organization. You go from the blunder stage, which is kind of the struggle of starting a business, and then hit the wonder stage when, golly, things are really working. And then you hit the thunder stage when, I mean, it's just dynamic. I mean, everything is working far beyond, and that's hopefully in those 3 stages. We're still kind of in that. We're not at the wonder stage yet, but we're getting close. But I think I was told that 190 paid members that paid their $5 fee this year. So that's great. So, and I think then continue to try to work with Genesis and work on service. We just gotta continue to work at it, I don't know. And, but it's been an unbelievable blessing. The relationships, the community that's been created, has been a real blessing to me to just watch, see unfold. So the more we encourage those things, the better that lifestyle and those opportunities for relationships for our seniors will just continue to grow. It's been pretty cool to see. So, and being the old guy, you get an opportunity to see a little more of you guys that you're all working. So,
Well, what a blessing it would be if we were able to offer so many rides that we weren't concerned about whether we had to offer the driver benefits or not.
exactly.
Just a couple more things on this. We will have some capital outlay. I think we're expecting to have to do some cameras and stuff on the van as well when it comes in. So there's some costs associated with getting the van upfitted and ready to go when it gets here. So that's what that $7,000 is. So yeah, that's kind of where we are on the van.
Be here July? Sorry if I missed that
What?
part. It's coming in July, right?
Yes.
You have the title?
You have the title?
It got here last week.
Oh. Hot dog.
Wonder who's driving it.
Drive it first.
And then go find the van, chief.
We're gonna see how fast it goes.
Or run into a
Whoever
curb.
wants to drive it first has to also tag
All right, move along unless anybody has any more. Okay, we only have a couple more departments in the general fund and be able to move on. But economic development, there's no personnel that's allocated to this. I know Micah does that job at all of his and the building inspector's costs, and Tina's going to be shifting to public works, but their salaries are all handled within planning and zoning, so it's easier to keep those all together there. The costs that we do have in economic development is pretty much software costs for the mapping and all the stuff that they use for that. There has been some some professional development this year. I think Mike is gonna do different stuff next year, so it's gonna go to the other department next year, on professional development. So really, not a whole lot going on here, no major capital purchases planned in 2027. Planning and zoning, this one's just a little bit bigger, with significant increase in staffing costs, just for reallocation, from prior years, and then, you know, the increase in, our new position there. Increased allocation as well to contracted IT software, to this department. I did move the planning commissions into this department. I mean, they've kind of been there before, but they've never had an allocation of cybersecurity and all the things. They've got email addresses and they're doing things on the computer, so they're a risk. So they're part of this department and those costs as well. So that was part of that reallocation of those items. Continue investment in our softwares that they're using. I do want to mention when we talk about software, every year that is one of the hardest ones to track down, figure out who's using what. Are we still using it? And I create a list and we make sure, are we using it? Do we want it? Do we need to get rid of it? Are there new things? So it's not just something that we just keep doing because we've always done it. We make sure we're using the stuff before we continue that. Let's see. Not really anything else in this department. Any questions? Code enforcement. This is where we use our pro code compliance services. They're projected to have a 7% contractual increase, so that's factored into this. But in our contractuals, which it doesn't make sense to me, I mean, when we get to Tyler, we're gonna make another change, but that payment to the county that we talked about yesterday is also in this department. I'd rather put it over to the other department, planning and zoning. It would make sense, but the history and G-Works I'd move something, it'd die and freeze up, and it would know what to do with changes like that. So just leave it here, but when we change over, we'll probably move that over there. So you can see a decrease there of about 18% in contractuals, and a good portion of that is that decrease in estimated payments to the county for inspection fees. All right, any questions? To me, I think this is the fun part, the projects. Because what's fun is when I'm working with my department heads and everybody's like, well, we need this and we need that, and the pool needs done, and I want to do a study for the senior center, and I want to, and I'm like, okay, all right, okay, everybody, hold on. I make that list, and then I try to make it work, and I think we've been able to make it work if everybody agrees with what we've got planned here. So, so our equipment request, and these are general funds, so don't think about, we're going to talk about different projects in the utility funds later on. This is all general fund. These are general fund type projects. In my opinion, it's paid by tax dollars through a transfer now to a capital improvement fund, a street fund, and so on and so forth. So our equipment request that we have is some upgrades to our pool radio communications. I think that's been in the works for several years, and we're finally getting it into the program. Along with park camera replacements. The police camera contract with the flock cameras, that's in here as well. Computer and equipment upgrades. This is our Imagine IT's replacement. So this $43,000 consists of machine replacements, a firewall, migration as to the cloud, and some contingency in there for additional staff computers just in case we need to, replace something. They're usually about $2,500 a pop anytime somebody's dies. So we just put some dollars into there. Council room audio upgrades and services. I want to talk about this just a second because this number is high. We put $100,000 in there. We've talked, Ryan and I think Craig mentioned at our last council meeting, we talked about redoing the audio, the visual, microphones, putting a projector on that wall so when we're presenting we can actually see it and look at you guys at the same time. And we've gotten a quote for about for the equipment being about $45,000 to $50,000. They come in, they install everything, and then the nice piece is if we want to pay an additional $10,000 or so a year, or not even that, yeah, about that. It was $5,000 for 6 months. They'll come in and run the meetings, and they know how to push the button, and if you're talking, Naomi, it will go to you, and the camera will go to you. They will be able to get it on Facebook, YouTube. They know how to do it. Danny, when they were telling us all about this, there's a control panel, and you'll push the buttons, and I was like, who's going to push these buttons? We'd be a mess, They offer this service as something that they do for area cities around here. So they could come in and run our meetings, and that's something that we're talking about doing. So, long story longer, we may bring that to you if you would like to do that in 2026. We have some budget room that we could go ahead and do that this year, or if you'd like to push it off to next year, we're probably looking closer to the $100,000 because they said the prices would go up in 2027. They can't guarantee the equipment and stuff out that far. So, I don't know, but I like to throw contingency in there. So, I just want to give you guys the option and kind of get a feeling of what you'd like to see. If you'd like to see us go ahead and proceed and knock this project out this year, we could go ahead and probably get it done. And we will do an agenda report.
Are they working with other communities that we know of?
They are.
That's what I was going to mention. Let us send you an email with 3 or 4 cities that they're in, so you can go see. And if you think it's worth doing it now based on the quality that they're providing them, and we can move forward. I mean, it's like you're watching it on TV, basically. It's that good.
Yeah.
And they do all new computers too, so the whole streaming situation is a 180 from what we have now, where you can clearly tell you're you're watching a video on the internet, where this looks more like it's on TV.
It's really hard to hear.
When you say 5,000 for 6 months, I mean, is that, like, if we add an extra meeting or maybe these budget meetings or things like that, is that included or is that extra?
They give us, I think it was 3 meetings a month.
It's three, I think it might be 4 actually, because
Okay.
there's 3 council meetings and 1 planning commission. And they base it off of if your meetings are around an hour long. They said if after the first 6 months your average meeting is longer than that, then they may escalate the price to some degree, but I think it's an annual contract. But the nice thing is that this is a lot more high tech than we have now. I don't necessarily think we wanna try to train a staff person to do it. And also, quite frankly, it'd be nice to give Danny her evenings back, because she's already giving lots of weekends and evenings, because she does all our events and stuff. At any rate, if we don't do it this year, I certainly hope we can do it next, because it would be a huge improvement, and I know our citizens have kind of been, a bit upset about some of the technical difficulties we've had over the years.
And it will be ADA compliant too.
And do we know with now with fiber, right?
Mhm.
So all of our infrastructure that they would require, we've checked that it's adequate?
To my knowledge, yes, but we should verify that. You can go to you may know this, sorry if I'm patronizing you. There's a website you go to, it'll tell you what your internet speed is immediately.
Oh, right, but I don't know if there's any other requirements they have for their stuff to work.
I don't think so. They met in here for like an hour and a
Yeah,
half.
they came in and they've looked at everything. I think there's some electrical work that needs to be done, and that's been factored into the price. They said they would use these microphones here that are up here because these are the best ones they have, but then there would be cordless mics like out on the tables where we are, so, you know, staff could hear those and at the podium. And I think the camera, like, it will go to who's talking. I mean, it's absolutely amazing how they can do that. And there's a panel that it would be back there in that area where Danny is now. There's like a whole new box system. Most of that stuff would go away. They require 2 computers, one for streaming and one for presentation. So we have to get, that's in the quote too, to have the proper computer system set up. They can stream it on YouTube and Facebook for us and make sure that it's where it is, and then make sure it's stored so Sarah can have it later to put where Sarah puts it. So
Can you just, whenever you send me emails, I don't think it's a discussion we have to have right now, but can we just kind of get the breakdown understanding of what if we have a month where there's more meetings than usual and what that looks like, or
Yeah.
what the backup is if they can't run it, things like that?
Yeah.
I think that's the piece that gives.
We'll ask them what the contingencies look like.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
mean, obviously this is a special meeting. They have several staff though, and believe it or not, I couldn't imagine this, but our meeting times actually fall outside of when the other cities, a lot of cities meet on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and stuff like that, or they meet at 5 instead of 7.
I did see that they said if you wanted an extra meeting, they just needed like 48 hours notice or something,
Okay.
and they could be there to do that. So, thank you.
Couple other things. One, I know that currently, it seems like for whatever reason, whenever we start, it starts here, but the feed doesn't pick up until maybe sometimes after the Pledge of Allegiance or whenever. And I know that probably the other thing we need to put in that line item is a line for WD-40, because,
Chief's chair.
well, this one too, but even last night when I went home, my wife, the fine First Lady of Goddard, asked me, would you sit still and quit squeaking in your chair?
I didn't know what it was, but I was thinking the same thing when I'm sitting here watching it. I'm like, if only I could hear Pastor squeaking.
We're both kind of taking turns seeing which chair's the squeaky. But that's just, there's just, sometimes it's just the littlest of things that we can do that.
Can't hear him and squeaking.
Squeaky chair gets the budget money.
I've
That's
also
right.
been curious, it might be worth asking them, so like, you know, if we're not present and we have to call in, is it possible with this new system to be able to
Yes.
video in?
They will video you in via Teams. Yeah.
They do that now pretty effectively too, if you
I'm
need to do
just
that
curious,
before
cause I
now.
think it would be cool sometimes to be able to.
Yeah, they knew how to do exactly that. They're all over it.
Or you could like see the agenda, so you could actually
Yeah,
like
'cause
second, or you could make them, yeah.
If you call in right now, what you hear is like 3-4 seconds ahead of what you're saying.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if you could audio in if you're like out of town.
Actually could have a
That's,
virtual
that's
fence.
definitely a feature.
Oh,
A bunch of screens up here.
And then
Little t-shirts and little pictures of herself.
Cardboard cutouts.
No, we did that already, and we don't wanna ever do that again, ever.
Okay, so kind of what I'm hearing is then we will probably bring it at a future council meeting, and then at that point in time, we can determine what year you'd like to do it in. But we'll just allocate some dollars there. If we don't use it, then I won't use it, so.
Yeah.
I like cheaper, I just wanted the logistics.
Good
All right.
questions. Good question.
All right, the next item, also, we plan to purchase 2 more patrol Tahoes or vehicle and outfitting those for our 2 new officer positions, and that's estimated at about $170,000. It's usually about 80 something a piece, usually, but with a little change on that.
So do you have any cars rotating off your chart of mileage and cars?
Not in 26, or I'm sorry, not in 26 or 27. 28, we will need to start pulling and replacing.
We actually had some, but to cut back, we decided not to. Like the ACO was one we were gonna try to do next year, might have been one other, but we delayed it.
Might buy a couple engines.
I know a guy that sells these cars.
All right, so those are our total, equipment requests right now, about $350,875. Capital project requests outside of equipment, these are some items that have came across our desk, the things that we'd like to do. We wanna set aside some dollars for community center maintenance. I know they have some flooring issues and there's just some other things, and if something breaks down over there, we wanna have some contingency in that. Street table revisions, I should say revisions, not visions. That's embarrassing.
Give it.
We have $15,000 budgeted for that. That was kind of driven from, Mike and Ryan kind of determining maybe there might be something that happens with, the comprehensive plan that we may need to do something with that as well. And I think that the new city planner would probably, utilize that line item as well.
Is that software? Is that what that is? What?
I believe it's a software, and a process as it relates to, it might be our subdivision regulations. I asked him this last week and he told me, and I just forgot what it was,
Okay,
but
that's fine.
we'll send, I'm making notes, so things we can't answer, we will send you an answer later. But the whole idea was, hey, we got this amazing comprehensive plan, but we don't have any money to actually implement it, so this is one of the things that we set some funding aside for that. But I'll get more details to you.
Library fencing project at about $20,000. I believe they're wanting to put some sort of a wrought iron fence around a piece of the library over there on Jason,
Yeah, kind of over there where the, benches and stuff are, we're gonna kind of fence that in, and then get donations to make that more playground and more of an interactive area for the kids. So,
You know, we've talked about, if we replace the library, first phase of that building process, if we use that ground, would be to build the first half of that building on the north half of those lots. And I would hate to spend, money on something that 2 or 3 years from now, we're going to the planning process of taking it all out. And, because if you build the first half of that building, then you can move the library into the new building, knock down the bank, and build the other half of the building. And we can build out to the sidewalks on both sides. There's a whole, I mean, the square footage available, and then you could house both the library, which would give it more space, plus a nice senior center. And so years ago, they raised money at one of the schools for these really nice stone benches for outside schoolwork. And, you know, they spent $10,000 or something, and 3 years later, they go over there and they do some remodeling on the building. The benches would really be cool if we could find them, and we could put them in the parks, but I just think that, I think it's a good idea, but I think with the things that we're considering doing, I just can't see spending the money on that and then turning around here in the next 3 or 4 years and taking it apart.
Is there a consensus to omit this item?
I don't know enough about what it is.
Are you talking about, what area
So
specifically?
on the south side, where the benches are at.
Like the wood pergola benches?
She wants to fence that in and then keep some benches and such, and then get donations to build more of an interactive area. And the fencing was, the idea was that then the kids or the families could just go straight out without worrying about the kids running out the street and such, and be an interactive area, is what Carrie's like.
So you spend $20,000 for the fence, you collect $15,000 from people, and then 3 or 4 years from now, we tear it all out.
Is there a lower cost option, that maybe we build a fence in-house, it's a smaller ticket type thing?
It's something we can discuss with her.
Could you let us take a pencil
That's
to it?
fine, I just think, I just hate spending money on something that 3 or 4 years from now, it's just gonna disappear.
Well, and I
I'm not,
think,
I think a wood fence that lasts 5 or 10 years. You know, not a wrought iron one necessarily.
Well, but I'm just saying, if we tear it out, it's gone. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chrissy, you were gonna say something?
well, I think that they're just trying to make do with what they have available to them, and they wanna utilize every square inch. I do think 20,000, a wrought iron fence maybe is excessive, but, you know, in 3 years' time, in 3 years, is that the planning process of the library, or is that
We're giving them a new library.
or is that them taking residence in a new library? So,
Well, and the other thing is, if you turn around and you're also gonna be raising donations and funding for that, you're putting more money in there than $20,000. And I just think that, if you're gonna have somebody give money for something, you want it to be long lasting.
Yeah.
And this is definitely not gonna be a long lasting project if we end up using that space for a library and senior center.
I want to answer the first question, and I'm speculating, so bear with me, someone may disagree, and please do, but just looking at our CIP and where our other projects are at, I would say a ballot initiative probably occurs in 2028 at the earliest, 9 probably is close to reality, and then a year of design, so it could be 5 years until they're actually moving into one, and then the question is do they need to live with this situation for 5 years? They do have a pretty healthy fund balance from all the excess valuation growth that they continue to collect every year. I mean, there's a reason why we're not adding on that extra 35,000. Maybe we put it back to them and say, hey, because we see their budget, would you guys be willing to pay for this fence? Or maybe it's a situation where we can look at doing some of it in-house and cost sharing it with them, so maybe we're spending 5,000 to 8,000 instead of 20 for something that may only be there 5 years. Seems to me there's another path.
I'd really like to consider meeting them in the middle, and the only reason I'm saying meet them in the middle is because we're not gonna be able to go long term. Otherwise, I'd be like, give them the fence, because I think our library is a great resource for our community, but I would agree, I think 20,000 for a wrought iron when they're not, I mean, you do a wrought iron, yes, they look nice, but because you're gonna use it long term, and they're not going to use it long term, so. Can we look at even just a nice little white picket area that is still containing these kids, right? But, maybe isn't so excessive in cost, and we meet them in the middle, or if we can get this cost down, use some of their funds to maybe put some of that play equipment or like the smaller things that they're talking about out there. I mean, don't wanna like take all their funds away, but I think 20,000, when I think we could probably do it cheaper in a different way, is excessive when they're not going to be there long term.
Well, we've proven we can install equipment, we just did that some of that ourselves.
Well, I'm just thinking like when the community center was painted, like the community came together, I know it's not a requirement, I just think that there are ways that we can,
What if we did like 7,500 and then we kicked in kind labor?
You know, here's the other thing too, you gotta think about, there's 4 or 5 months a year where it's not gonna be used. It's not gonna be used on rainy days. It's gotta, you know, they're, and if they're sitting on taxpayer dollars in a fund, and they've got the money to do this, they should do it themselves.
Let us check the fund balance.
Well,
Make
I
sure
mean,
I'm not
I
speaking out of
just,
turn.
I mean, when we have to sit here and listen to people say where, you know, do what you can to be sure that you're being, you know, frugal with money. They've got plenty of funds over there, and let them spend money. I mean, I wouldn't spend $20,000 on a fence over there, knowing that the general direction of what we're trying to do is to use that whole property for a new building. So that's my personal.
if we have them use the fund balance, cause I hear what you're saying, is it still maybe an area where we could look helping them even in-house a little, with a little bit of it, without overloading you guys more
Yeah,
and,
in-house would definitely see.
so that maybe they're funding this out of their fund balance,
Think about the material and we'll provide the labor.
yeah,
You like-
something that, I know,
I mean, we've got water meters to put in, street water lines to put in. We wanna put cans and be able to do our meter reading electronically.
So all neighbors can know.
No, I'm just saying, there's limits. We just, we've got limited resources.
I need a project.
Fire hydrants.
we paid
Yeah.
the community center as a community, I'm just, let's table this and come back to it, but is there
We need a
some way that
project
our
for
community
next
can come
year's
together and
end.
help with this?
We could
And-
build
No, I
fence all
can't
day
do a
long.
fire
but
hydrant.
I got a guy. I don't know.
Fence.
Well, I think the general consensus is that we not do 20,000 on that, is that correct? And
Before we put anything in there, can we know what the fund balance is? I mean, that would be I'd like to know what their,
Yeah, we can, they do a
I'll tell you
treasury
right now,
report
we
and
only go
every.
down my audit report.
We'll send an we'll send a
Yeah,
follow-up
no,
email
yeah.
out to them.
As
Yeah.
long as still needs a project.
It does sound like a good Neighbors United, Lions, cause we've got all that
Yeah.
wood. I mean, you have all that wood.
I want them to have this, even though, I mean, 5 years is a long time to contain kids still, but I agree with you that if we're tearing it down, it's really hard to swallow $20,000.
And we have to balance out too what this library is to our community, what it does and what it's
Mhm.
going to do in the next 5 years.
That.
I do agree with you, George, on, you know, not doing it this way and using the resources that we have in our community groups and, you know, whatever
All I'm
else.
saying is, I'm fine, build whatever you can, but we don't need to be spending $20,000 for it, knowing the fact that they're sitting on funds. And
I
we've got
agree
other
with that.
resources to get it done. I'm not
Agreed.
saying not do it, but
Yeah.
I'm saying we shouldn't have to pay for that.
Let us come up with a plan B that doesn't involve us paying for that, and we'll send you guys an email with it. And we'll have it there as well.
I mean, I love the library. I served on that board for 6 years. My name's even on the plaque in there, so, I
That's
mean,
why we're here, we're having conversations about how.
yeah,
this
that's
is-
what he
yeah.
said.
This is a
Big
big
name
one.
here and go on to, the community center entrance ramp.
Yes.
I am excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, community center entrance ramp for $20,000. That's kind of an estimate, I think. Jason got to do that project, so we're good plan.
And that's another one that we can get in-house, so that 20,000, that could come down a little bit, cause they're mainly cost of materials, for our paying guys, for labor and such, so.
There's a ring.
Yes.
There's a 2-inch cam when you step out of the building. The first.
Mayor,
George?
Here's me.
Yes, ma'am.
When you do that entrance ramp, are you gonna get rid of that little teeny step that everybody has to go
I
up?
was just sharing with the chief the issues with going in and out of that building with the,
It's about a 2-inch step,
and then
and
people
people
don't.
have fallen in, and
or
they have
fall
fallen
out.
out.
I'm probably on camera, so I'm falling in at a time or two, so.
So yes, the idea is to take that, to make that, a platform that would go straight to the door,
Okay.
is the idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking at making it ADA compliant.
Yeah.
So, doing so could take out that 2 inch.
I
And
appreciate
then
that.
the ramp would be turned to the
Sideways, like
To
the
the
one that
south,
comes into the
yeah,
center.
to the south, because it's a 12-to-1 ratio,
Yeah.
and that's 8 inch, if I remember right, that's about 8 inches up from ground level to the door, so it'd have to be an 8-foot ramp.
Will there be stairs on the north side?
That's the thing that we're still trying to figure out how to,
So we don't have to go all the way
steps.
down and back?
Right, but it would have hand railings, and then, ADA compliance also, requires like a curb up the ramp as well,
Oh.
to allow, so the tires can't fall off and things of that nature, so.
I think that's much needed. Sending our seniors into the side of the building where
Well,
it's
they
not
need
even
that
ADA
little hallway
compliant, it's
kinda
just
tight.
not, yeah.
But they don't use it, they just go on the steps and I've seen,
Yeah.
I've seen poor Dan.
And it's hard to keep ice and snow off that ramp because it's so narrow.
It's
Shade,
shaded.
things melt and then it freezes and, you know, it's cleared off one day and then the thaw.
It's
brings
not
it-
inviting either.
It's nice to skate on.
That door's heavy too, it's a little, it's not your combo.
Yeah.
All right.
Getting there.
Also, just, cause this is somewhat related, and I'm trying to ahead, I might be jumping ahead, I don't know, but
Go ahead.
I'm curious, there's been a couple people speak now about, crosswalks on Main Street.
We got that one.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, it's on here?
It's gonna be in streets.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
It's in streets, I glanced in streets, nothing popped out, so that's why I brought it up.
Like pedestrian refuge.
Main Street Median Project is what it's called.
Crosswalk project, I see it, alright, come on.
Yeah. They're going on.
Continue.
Never heard of Bossy before.
We should just let them say.
I wasn't being boss. I was trying to keep it short.
Alright, so moving on, senior center strategic plan, this is what we talked about earlier, so we budgeted around $50,000 to do that strategic plan of the senior center. There's a line item in here, just other consulting and planning costs, we need to put some dollars there just for something that might pop up. I like to have a placeholder, and honestly, that's substantially low considering what we've done in the past, but I think Craig and I talked, and I don't think we have capacity to do much more planning
We don't have enough people.
to do, so that's just kind of a placeholder that may or may not get used. $72,000 for the pool sandblasting and rehab project. That's gonna help take care, kind of rehab the pool a little bit, make it look better, so.
And I think that's including splash pad too, isn't it? I thought that was included splash pad.
Did it?
as well. I'm saying it was pool and splash pad, but I could be wrong.
Biolytics, it's an AI street assessment. I have $75,000 here, but I think it's closer to 50 or
30.
30,
Yeah,
okay.
Jason and I demoed it yesterday, so we're to the point now where we're spending enough money on pavement preservation that we need to be a little bit more strategic in how we're doing that. This actually is one of the earlier AI use cases that we've seen in local government. I think it's at least 5 years old, but you literally put the iPhone in the car, drive around every single lane mile in the city, and it takes an inventory of every single lane mile. It grades the roads, it categorizes things it sees, transverse cracks, longitudinal cracks, alligator cracking. Then it tells you, it gives the road a grade, it says what treatment, you can use it to determine the treatment type. It will take a full inventory of all your street signs, which we do not have. It is a critical thing to be lacking. And the other thing that I didn't know about it when we did the demo is it served as a full function work order system now. Right now, we're just communicating on tablets via Teams, and it's like, I see something out there, I text Jason, hey, that pothole at US 54 and 199, and he's gotta text Nick, and then Nick puts it in the Teams. With this, the software, when you're driving, it snaps a picture of it, it'll put it right into a work order system, all the public works employees will have access to it, we can get PD access to it too. Relatively low cost for the amount of use cases it has, but the primary reason we're looking into it is because if we're gonna be spending the amount of money we are on pavement preservation, because we're about done with street construction here in a year or two, we just wanna be more strategic with it, and we're to the point where we gotta be utilizing technology because staff capacity and
That's just where we're
cost
headed,
cutting.
yeah.
And also document Westar or Evergy lights out at night?
Yeah, I mean, it can do anything like that.
I won't have to drive around at 9:30.
Actually get some sleep.
It's really, really cool. All of our, so not to get too nerdy, but we have GIS right now, and all of our infrastructure, we have shape files. So you can walk with the tablet and stand right over the water for the water main or the ISO valve and see it. We'll be able to interface those two things together so it'll work with one
Streamline the
another.
process.
And that's 30 down instead of 75.
Is it 30 or
It was
37?
30, it was 28 something, but essentially 30, and it was like 10,000
Mm-hmm.
entries.
Sorry to interrupt you, yeah, we just did that demo yesterday.
No, that's okay.
You gave her a
30,000,
positive update, so she's good.
Yeah.
30,000 one-time cost and then 10 a year to host it.
We're, you said kind of almost sounded like the reconstruction, where is Main Street on this list?
But not on it.
Okay, can,
That and other streets included.
this is so minuscule, but just while we're talking about the money that we're saving, I wanna put this out there. Just being a part of a lot of community events, when we talk about Main Street, some of the things we're doing, we keep putting off kind of numbering the sidewalks, just painting them with numbers, for placement, because we're gonna be reconstructing, but this is kind of the thing, if it's not even on there, can we look at what it would cost, which probably is not much if, well,
We
in
can do-
ourselves, do
we-
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that's not on our radar right now, can we look at doing something like that?
Yes. The streetscape project, which would include pavement rehabilitation, is on the 10-year CIP. It's not on the
Mhm.
5-and-5 program. And that's one of those projects that's really hard to prescribe a year. It's just gonna be so contingent on the business owner appetite to help
Of
has the
course,
skin in the game.
yeah.
And then also our ability to get some grant funds.
Our events are just growing and we're bringing a lot of people in, and we've talked to Chief quite a bit about kind of safety and maneuvering and being able to, Danny's nodding her head back there, being able to kind of identify spots a little better, not have to shut down the roads with us in them with nobody else out there, and taping where people can't see us. I just think if we're talking about saving in some other areas.
We get some stencils. and do some-
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about 10 or 20,000, just maybe $1,000.
Cut it to us.
I'm sorry.
We got, well, we have a couple months now.
Yeah.
Until September.
Alright, moving along, there is $100,000 allocated to the 2027 comprehensive plan contract, so you know how we divided that into two pieces, so we budgeting for that. $150,000 for city branding and promotions, and I'm Craig, this is kind of your project, so I'll explain.
Yeah, so I've heard from a couple council people, even former guard, really only got a couple of turnovers since I've been here, but that, you know, our branding is a little behind. I've always been of the opinion that we got way too much going on right now to be talking about a logo or those kinds of things. But the more common theme I'm starting to hear over the last couple of months is we need to be telling our story and promoting our community. Rebranding to some degree, doing some videography, probably need to get a Visit Goddard website. We are now taking advantage of the fact that we're a regional tourism destination. We talk about thinking wildlife park, this is sports complex, Lassock Bay Water Park, US 54, bisecting, all those things. So the first proposal, anytime we're doing capital budget for the next year, we always give it one firm and say, hey, this is what we need, give us your cost. This was the first cost. Now, when we actually go to do it next year, we would competitively solicit proposals, so it could be less, but that was the first number we received from a really good firm. They're doing Visit Wichita's stuff, which is really solid work if you've seen it. So the one thing that has been brought to my attention is the fact that we're building a lot of public facilities right now that have our old logo on them, and we've already executed contracts, and those things are already being manufactured. So that I'm like, the mayor's thing on the library, like that. But at the time, we weren't planning on doing this. So at any rate, what the scope of that work looks like, we'll work with you guys on what you want to see when we get closer to it. But that's the background information on it.
Well, I think the logo is kind of the last piece of that, but I think it's important that we try to promote what is unique about our community. And it really revolves around some of the things we talked about with the builders. You know, we are a family-oriented, friendly community, and we want to
be known for that.
We want to be known for that. And I had a guy who's moved here out of Wichita, stood on my porch and told me for like 5 minutes why he loved living in Goddard.
We interviewed him.
No, I've got his name and his number, and he'd be one of the first ones to talk to, because the comparisons that he made from where he'd been, whether it was Wichita or California or wherever, it sounded like one of the little Olympic, someone from Europe talking about America. I mean, it was just that, it's quiet, it's peaceful, people are friendly. I mean, it really, as a testimonial, somebody, it was really.
Mention the police department to me.
No, because he doesn't, if they don't know your name, that's a good thing. If you know their names, that's another problem.
Well, I think some of this could come back because the more we promote the things, the attractions in our community, and the more, leverage we get out there, that sales tax is coming back to us as well. So, I mean, I think this is, you don't see that payoff right away, but I think over the span of years, the more we grow our social media, which is happening, and the more we continue to host events and we continue to kind of bring more positive to what people see on the news or social media or whatever at Goddard, I just think that would pay for itself.
And when, at certain points, as families get older, I know that people shop the school district if their kids are involved in sports. If they're gonna decide where to go, if their kids are wrestlers, they're gonna come to Goddard. They, if it's a football thing, they're gonna go to maybe if they go to Derby or wherever, but we have positive things that we need to, nobody's gonna tout them for us.
Right.
And if we start maybe in July, we could do it for half, but that's, I'm just joking.
The proposal he sent starts in July. I told him it's gonna be 2027.
Alright, so maybe, so that not 300,000 for the full year. But anyway, no, I just think, when we came on council 2.5 years ago, the reputation of our community in Sedgwick County was not very positive. And if you look in the last 90 days or so, the positive stories about things happening, I mean, the Goddard Women's Club gets a, award for $500. I mean, we are receiving a lot of positive, press, and we just, whether it's the Wichita Eagle or the Business Journal, or just the members of our community. I think we just need to be, vocal in promoting that we want to be a friendly family community. We want to have amenities. It's okay, we can plant a couple trees on each lot, and places where people can come together and experience life. In small neighborhoods, from 167th Street out to, get out to halfway to, well, I'm thinking halfway to Garden Plain, but I don't want to upset those folks.
So, to kind of piggyback on that though, when you mentioned starting it maybe July of next year, when are we projected to finish the comp plan? Because I don't know that we should be promoting it until we have a good comp plan in place. We understand what our vision forward is before we promote something, right?
But it should be done by.
So Ryan and Mike at Family Emergency Sick will be here. I'm not 100% sure when it'll be done. I know it's an 18-month deal. So at some point next year, hopefully by the midway point. When you said July, I thought you were talking about starting this year. You meant
Next year,
They
yeah.
mentioned it
Next week,
Yeah,
there's
okay.
April of 2028 on all the documentation that they have sent to us.
So let's just say June, then, so halfway point. I think that this kind of needs to dovetail to it to some degree, but also I feel like it's a separate situation. This is more about, Visit Goddard, telling a story from that perspective, and the comp plan is more of a technical document of guiding development pattern and decision, things of that nature. So maybe two separate purposes.
I think they will come together though.
Yeah, I think a little bit.
There'll be some.
I think that you could time them to come together. I mean, as more information comes out about this, I think just from like a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, and like even from a community standpoint, like I tried to, at one of the events we had last weekend, get people to take a survey for the comp plan, and they go, I just took the survey. I'm like, which survey? I'm like, well, the one you sent me last week. I'm like, well, that was the budget survey. So it's like, so all I'm getting
Yeah, I
at is,
mean, we're-
if we
yeah.
stack things on top of each other too long.
They get lost.
Yeah, they get lost on what is it we're doing, and so
Yeah.
maybe they dovetail on each other, maybe there can be some overlap because we have a vision. We're not done with the comp plan, but we understand where we're going with it, and we can start the next thing, but I don't wanna get like too many things going necessarily that are like publicity wise, and then people not understand what it is that.
How can we streamline that maybe to tie, instead of saying like we don't wanna keep like too much going on, how can we streamline that to be more cohesive?
I mean, I think starting towards the very tail end of the comp plan makes a lot of sense. I would wanna start it when the comp plan is still relatively fresh, cause we're gonna lean on some of the data we gathered to help guide the decision making for the branding, chrono stuff. I appreciate not doing this. We'll be winding down some really big projects the first quarter of next year, so that's probably
Maybe
makes
towards
sense.
the end of next year, and that way in April of 20 when this is finalized, if you're talking about new city branding and all these things, if you could roll that out at the same time as, so it's still within your 2027 as discussed, but.
I think if we start at this point, we'll be done by the end of the year, we'll be fine. All the other things should be done by then.
And the promotions, we could start the promotions and then announce the branding if there is changes into that process of promoting. So,
Well, and I don't know that this necessitates a logo change, this may be its own thing, Visit
Yeah,
Goddard, it
exactly.
have its own logo. So, we want to get a new sign.
it could be.
Sorry to get the weeds on that.
I know you were reading my mind, I can probably.
I got one more line.
You're gonna be the cover of the page.
We're gonna sell all of
Yeah,
them.
we're getting really in the weeds.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
all right.
some good discussion, I think this is great. Finally on the list is our PD facility engineering and design phase, so we are budgeting $750,000 next year to start doing this project. And that's bumped up from several years on our CIP, so I know Craig and Chief have been doing a lot of research on that, but we're gonna budget for those items, so, you know, those,
That's 7.5% of 10 million. 10 million should roughly be the top end of the build cost. I think the more Chief and I tour facilities, which we toured a
Inflation
few,
factor.
and the budgets we're hearing, the price per square
Yeah,
foot,
no,
we're starting to feel more confidence in our number that we can deliver well within that. I mentioned this briefly yesterday, because of our cash position, when it's time to permanently finance the police station, you guys will have the option, at Brooke's recommendation, to either pay the general fund back for the $750,000, or we'll just save our on interest payments and stuff like that by not doing that when we do the permanent finance.
Back up.
back up?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna ask you, before you, if you have anything you want to add, because I have one thing.
I think I brought up all of them, but I wanted to.
All right.
With someone.
No jet.
I'm holding off to 2030, I'm gonna get chief of police station first, and then somehow we're gonna have.
With a landing strip in the back,
Yeah,
so
kinda-
that's a part of it.
Helipad, so.
Okay.
We're thinking. When you drive down I-35 and you hit McPherson County, when you get about 4 or 5 miles away from McPherson, coming from the north or from the south, you can see the lit up city water tower. And if you look at where our water tower is stationed, and I know, I think Jason, last year, you kind of done some preliminary looking. Do you remember even? Yeah, Craig told me.
It's around $50,000, I think, to light it up.
35 or 40, if I remember.
That was 2 years ago. It's probably close
I still can't believe it costs that much. I'd almost go out there with a flashlight and see it hold it up there. But I think, if you think about something that can be seen, you know, where the cut coming off of the Garden Plain, the old highway where it intersects, you can see the water tower from there. from the north as you're coming down, the Endale Road, you can see it from 13. From the, coming from the east, about 167. But I think it just would, it's just a promotional billboard that it's already there, and I just think it would be, I mean, you look at the money we spent on the signage, I mean, to make that a focal point, a visual focal point, much like a lighthouse or something that sits as a beacon that you can see, I think I'm willing to even donate to it, so.
I'm not sure if I would classify this as a general fund expense if we're lighting up a water tower.
Well, I'm just,
It may end up being more of a
well,
water utility
wherever you put
situation.
it,